Yes, says for all. Good afternoon, everyone. Ready to do some work? All right, so the prayer will be offered by the delegate from Baltimore County, the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker and
welcome.
colleagues. Please assume a respectful stance. I just want to share with you one of my family's favorite philosopher, musicians, and his partner, William Bill S. Preston Esquire and Theodore Ted Logan, both from the band Wild Stallion. And they have a beautiful slogan that I think we should keep in mind from now until the end of session, which is, people just be excellent to each other. Amen.
Amen. Warren Cole.
Madam Speaker?
Thank you. Let's give them a minute to reach their seats. People that are in the back. Okay. Yeah. Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 122 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 25th, 2026.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm still reveling in the smell of the carne asada in the House building, but I am so much be considered the reading of the journal.
So order petitions, memorials, and other papers. Yeas and nays, calendar number 11. House bill passed in the Senate. The clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 604, House Bill 661 by order Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
Thank you. I want to take a second because I want the body to help me thank someone that you have either texted with, spoken with, visited the office, and makes everything look really good up here and helps me a lot. Michelle Furman, my chief of staff. Michelle works really hard. I know that many of you text her. She's up at 3, 4 in the morning working, and I am extremely grateful, okay? Thank you very much. Message, Senate Bill 159. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 159, Emergency Medical Services, Vehicles and Ambulances, Required Supplies.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refused to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Senator Watson chair, Senator Harris, and Senator Gallion. Said bill is returned herewith.
The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Watson chair, Senator Harris, and Senator Gallion. The House appoints Delegate Martinez chair, Delegate Riley, and Delegate Kaufman. Said bill is returned herewith.
Messages, Senate Bill 514. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 514, Criminal Law, Third-Degree Assault.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refused to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Delegate Smith chair, or Senator Smith chair, Senator Love, and Senator West. Said bill is returned herewith.
Okay. Messages, Senate Bill 866. The clerk will read the, oh, did I skip? The clerk will read the message to the Senate. Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Smith, Chair, Senator Love, and Senator West. The House appoints Delegate Moon, Chair, Delegate Cardin, and Delegate Valentine. Said bill is returned herewith.
I only have 3 nuggets left. I'm going to try really hard not to make any more mistakes. Senate Bill 866, the clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 866, Public Health, Chain Restaurants, Disclosure and Notice to Customers of Sodium and Added Sugars.
Thank you. The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refused to concur in the House amendment and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith.
The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments and respectfully requests the Senate to reconsider and concur. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Warman, Chair, Delegate Alston, and Delegate Hutchison. Said bill is returned herewith.
The delegate from Baltimore City, thank you. I'm going to try not to make any mistakes because he's not getting it. Oh. And I have a delegate from Montgomery that brought me some more, but he did not hear that. Thank you. Concurrence calendar number 13. Thank you so much. The clerk will read the first bill in the Senate amendments.
House Bill 1181, Family Law, Children in Out-of-Home Placement, Voluntary Placement Agreements, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair from Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Move to
welcome.
concur.
The question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1181 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Some people here to the right. Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 1181, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Thank you. Concurrence calendar number 14, the clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 1219, Climate Change, Homeowners Insurance and Emergency Management Study, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Senate amendments add a party to be consulted as part of the study. We'd move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1219 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 33 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1219, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Thank you. Report of the Committee on Health. It is report number 39. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1602, Counties No-Cost Preventative Cancer Screening for Volunteer Firefighters. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader,
Thank you, Madam
the
Speaker.
vice chair of the committee.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Amendment number 1, add sponsors and make technical changes. Amendment number 2, adds retired volunteer firefighters to the bill's requirements. I think we defined them also. And that's it. Move the amendments.
All right, the question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Report of the Rules Committee, report number 7. The report is a consent calendar. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 39, re-referred to Health.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I move the reading of Senate Bill 39 be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
So order. All of the bills are referred to the appropriate committees. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk would take the call. There being 129 members present, the House is still in session. We're going to start, for those of you that are following it on your computers, with House third reading calendar number 141. The clerk will read the bill, please.
House Bill 1028, Caroline County Board of Education member compensation increase.
House Bill number 1028 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 1028, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. House third reading calendar number 142. The clerk will read the bill, please.
House Bill 1599, Chesapeake Bay Enhancement Program and Maryland Seafood Industry Financial Assistance Fund established.
House Bill number 1599 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, House Bill 1599, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. House Bill amended in the House. House Bill number 107. The clerk will read the bill in the Senate amendments.
House Bill 107, Motor Vehicles Intelligent Speed Assistance System Pilot Program Establishment, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
We are moving not to concur because there's a drafting error that we want to fix in conference, so move not to concur.
The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuse to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully request the Senate receive from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Allen Chair, Delegate Healy, and Delegate Jacobs. Said bill is returned herewith.
House Bill amended in the House. Bill number 153. The clerk will read the bill in the Senate amendments.
House Bill 153, Residential Rental Apartments Air Conditioning Requirement, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the Committee of Economic Matters, the Chair of the Economic Matters Committee.
Motion not to concur, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuse to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully request the Senate receive from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Ampry Chair, Delegate Charkoudian, and Delegate Weibel. Said bill is returned herewith.
House Bill amended in the House. Bill 1063. The clerk will read the bill in the Senate amendments.
House Bill 1063, Natural Resources Hunting Management, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Because the Senate did
welcome.
not respect the House's perfect work product, I move not to concur.
The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate receive from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Boyce Chair, Delegate Baylor, and Delegate Naraki. Said bill is returned herewith.
House Bill amended in the Senate. House Bill 1067. The clerk will read the bill in the Senate amendments.
House Bill 1067, Hunting Lead and Lead-Based Ammunition Phase Out, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The
You're
Senate
welcome.
really shot this bill up, so we'd move to not concur.
All right. The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refused to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully request the Senate receive from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Corman, Chair, Delegate Guyton, and Delegate Boyce. Said bill is returned herewith.
Corin Cole.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 members present, the House is still in session. We're going to start with Senate third reading calendar, number 72. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 309, Sales and Use Tax, Precious Metal Bullion or Coins Exemption.
Senate Bill number 309 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 309, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 523, Department of Natural Resources, Water Resources, Identification of Vernal Pools.
Senate Bill 523 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I rise to oppose the bill today. So the vernal pool conversation was interesting in the sense that I'd never heard of this before, and having learned about it and understood it, my concern is when you start by identifying them, when you start by thinking about what these are, the next thing that comes are regulations, and then finally my concern would be changes to land use. And when I read the bill and offered an amendment where I was trying to separate out non-tidal wetlands from these vernal pools, I did that for a particular purpose. That is to say that we currently have, through the Department of Environment, strong regulations about what land use looks like in non-tidal wetlands. In this sense, when we pass this bill, and it looks like it will pass, we are inviting a brand new conversation about these vernal pools. So, you know, because I don't have the bill in front of me, I'm not going to be able to articulate all the things that I'm worried about there. But one of the issues with a vernal pool is we're only reviewing over a 2-month period. You know, during rainy seasons, you could likely have standing water. But that standing water, by definition under the bill, can be 6 inches or less, which means to say it could just be muddy ground that could be, in theory under this bill, determined to be a vernal pool. So, look, there are any number of different reasons why I stand up on the House floor. I try to reserve those for those moments where I have some experience and concerns with regulation and legislation. Here, of course, this is just a bill that identifies these, so I can't argue or complain about regulations, but my suspicion is I will win re-election and I'll be back on the House floor in the next handful of years. And what's going to come? It'll probably be a bill that regulates vernal pools. For that reason, I'm opposed to the bill, and Madam Speaker, thanks for the opportunity to articulate my serious concerns about the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. You got up really fast on this one, so I wouldn't miss you, right?
I learned my lesson, Madam
All right,
Speaker.
it's okay. Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So vernal pools, he's a friend of mine. He's an old friend of mine. In fact, he's 99, very wise guy. But I had a conversation with him yesterday, and he said that, you know, we should vote against this bill because Maryland's going to dig a deeper hole for itself if we don't. So,
He has such a good friend in you. All right. So why don't we take, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will call the roll. Okay. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 523, Having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 742, Maryland Medical Assistance Program and Developmental Disabilities Administration, Home and Community-Based Services, Eligibility Determinations, Maryland Protecting People with Disabilities Act.
Senate Bill 742 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, Senate Bill number 742, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Counter third reading House Senate Bills number 73, Senate Bill 141, Election Law, Election Misinformation, Election Disinformation, and Deepfakes.
Senate Bill 141 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 141, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 298, Department of General Services, Maryland Capitol Police, statewide jurisdiction.
Senate Bill number 298 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 298, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will be so kind and read the next bill.
Senate Bill 515, Health Services Cost Review Commission, Health Facilities, Rate Setting.
Senate Bill 515 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 515, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 638, Natural Resources, Maryland Heritage Areas Authority, Funding and Grants.
Senate Bill number 638 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 114 votes in the affirmative and 18 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 638, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote change?
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the lady from Anne Arundel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My button did not work on SB 141. I would like to be recorded in the green.
Recognizing the delegate from Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
For the second time today, I'm going to change my vote and go green on Senate Bill 638. Thanks.
Are you blaming it on the ladies to your left and to your right?
I learned this lesson earlier this session.
Because you were blaming your wife the other time.
I'm never blaming women on anything ever again.
Okay. That's a great lesson. Great lesson. Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel, then Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
SB
welcome.
141 in the green. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Frederick, the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
The minority
welcome.
leader distracted me. 638 to green. Thank you.
He's correct? Okay, great. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
He is distracting me also. Green on SB 638.
Bobby, can you take the distractor out of here, please?
Madam Speaker.
Yes. Anyone else recognizing the delegate from Frederick?
I'm going to blame the gentleman to my left. I would like to go green on 638.
The delegate from Frederick.
Ditto.
Okay, it was Carol and Frederick. All right. Okay, and Cedar, you have to say the vote, the green or red.
It's a green.
Green.
638 to green.
All right. Anyone else? All right. So we're doing now Senate third reading calendar number 48, and the clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 28, Arbitration Reform for State Employees, Act of 2026.
Senate Bill 28 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative and 34 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 28, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 72, Baltimore County Alcoholic Beverages Sale for Off-Premises Consumption.
Senate Bill number 72 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 72, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 361, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages License Extension.
Senate Bill number 361 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 361, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 414, Anne Arundel County Alcoholic Beverages Consumption Only Nonprofit Swim Club License.
Senate Bill number 414 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, Senate Bill number 414, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 601, Cybersecurity Standards and Compliance Alterations.
Senate Bill 601 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 601, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We are, any vote change?
Yes, ma'am.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Senate Bill 638 to green.
Okay. The other gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Senate Bill 638 to green. He gave me bad advice the first time.
Okay, make sure you both bring in your yellow slip. Anyone else? All right. We're doing Senate third reading calendar number 59, and the clerk will be so kind and read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 305, Qualifying Nonprofit Organizations Incarcerated Individual Training and Reentry Grant Fund Extension.
Senate Bill number 305 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 34 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 305, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 331, Public Safety Handgun Permits, Expiration and Renewal Period for Retired Law Enforcement Officer.
Senate Bill number 331 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 331, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 516, Law Enforcement Protective Body Armor Requirements and Reporting.
Senate Bill number 516 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 516, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 651, Real Property Transferred on Death Deed Establishment.
Senate Bill number 651 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 651, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 865, Work Group on the Affordability of Private Passenger Automobile Insurance Extension and Alteration of Membership and Duties.
Senate Bill 865 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative and 8 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 865, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 933, Judiciary Department, Commission on Judicial Disabilities, Temporary Appointment.
Senate Bill number 933 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 933, having received a constitutional majority, is declared
Madam
passed.
Speaker?
Yes, recognizing the chair of the committee.
I would not blame it on my vice chair. I was not recorded in the green on the last bill.
Okay.
Thank
you. See, that's loyalty there. All right. Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 8652, read.
And who will you blame? Let's not even go there. Okay, recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to be recorded in the green on Senate Bill 865, please.
All right, remember to turn in your yellow slips. Anyone else? All right, let's do Senate third reading calendar number 60. And the clerk will be so kind and read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 261, Maryland Money Transmission Act, definition of money transmitter, alteration.
Thank you. Senate Bill number 261 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, Senate Bill number 261, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We're going to do Senate third reading calendar number 61, and the clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 823, Correctional Services, Maryland Parole Commission, members.
Senate Bill number 823 is on third reading and final passage. Is there an amendment, any amendments to the bill? Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing, okay, recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm assuming the good gentleman's the floor leader?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything in this bill that would help the victims of any particular crime? Like, are there any people added to the parole commission that focus on, victims' rights or anything like that? I think it's pretty fair question.
Yes.
Okay. And which parties are we adding to the parole commission that focuses on victims?
It will be, well, there's one victim's rights advocate that has been added to the parole selection. Remember, this is just the selection committee.
Okay. And how many total people are being added to the parole commission? Or the selection? So it's the selection committee,
Well, the selection
but not
committee
actually the parole
is
commission.
all new.
I
This
understand.
doesn't exist.
I understand. Okay. Okay. I appreciate you answering that.
All right.
You're good.
Thank you.
So, look, I'll be very quick. In my opinion, when it comes to parole and parole commissioners and the parole commission, I think the focus over time has shifted really away from the victims and more so on the offenders. And I think our victims in this state need to have a stronger voice. And so for those reasons, I'll be voting against this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Could the floor leader rise to let us know, are the state's attorneys still opposed to this?
The state's attorneys didn't come out in a major way for or against this bill, as I recall.
Thank you.
It says they were unfavorable in the committee testimony.
Yeah, but I don't recall. I'm trying to remember if they even had they provided any in-person testimony. I believe it was strictly written testimony.
Written testimony opposed, and they're still opposed. You
They
didn't
haven't.
change it in any significant way that would make them support it.
I don't recall any additional comments from the state's attorneys other than their written testimony.
Thank you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative and 33 votes in the negative, House Bill number 8, Senate Bill number 823, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Vote change?
Madam Speaker, on Senate Bill 261 in the green, my finger didn't work. Thank
That's
you.
the gentleman from the Eastern Shore, the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Senate
welcome.
Bill 865 to green. Thank you.
You're welcome. Turn in your yellow slips. The gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Senate Bill 638 to green.
Anyone else? All right. House Bill amended in the Senate, House Bill number 717. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 717, Baltimore City Raffles Organizations affiliated with professional baseball and football teams.
Recognizing the committee chair of Ways and Means.
Thank you so much,
You're
Madam
welcome.
Speaker. The Senate amendments alter the termination of Chapter 372 of 2025. Move not to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully request the Senate recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith.
House Bill amended in the Senate, House Bill number 892. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 892, Business Regulations, Cemeteries, Actions for Sale, Transfer, or Alternate Use, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion
You're
not to
welcome.
concur.
The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith.
Concurrence calendar number 15. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 351, Constitutional Rights Violations and Digital Unmasking, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair. The vice chair.
Thank you. Move so
You're
much be
welcome.
considered a reading of the amendments. Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
move to concur.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move to concur. Thank you.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? What? Hold on. You have a question?
Yeah, I'd like to know what the Senate amendments are before
Okay.
141 of us vote on something.
The minority leader, the vice chair, will you be so kind and answer his question?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Senate bill as amended, no, I'm sorry. The amendments, the amendments conform to Senate Bill 346, which was passed earlier in the House on yesterday.
Okay, so we're conforming House Bill 351 to Senate Bill, whatever number you just said.
346.
All right, thank you. But that's fine. We're against it. So the cows come home till the Sonny does over. We're against it.
Okay. All right.
Madam Speaker.
All right, that's going to go on my bingo card. Go ahead, recognizing the delegate from Baltimore.
Thank you. Can the floor leader tell us what it does now? I think the minority leader was getting there, but...
Okay, recognizing the chair of the committee.
Sure. Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. So here we are. So amendment number, it has several amendments. On page 1, it changes it from an emergency bill and makes the effective date October 1. We also strike the term constitutional rights violations and digital unmasking and rename the bill to civil actions violation of constitutional rights. So we did that rename. We also changed judicial officer to covered officer. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Remember, covered officer means, and what the covered officer means. We also explained that covered officer does not include a law enforcement as fined in 1-101 of the public safety article, just to make clear who they were, and that it's someone, if it is someone acting under under authority of a joint task force that primarily enforces the U.S. Code. And then last, the other amendment was just technical, where we are striking, and we're going to substitute. We're striking the word. We're going down on page 3. We're striking the beginning, beginning with otherwise in line 2, down through accrues, and substituting that with what was available at the time, the cause of action accrued.
Thank you. Sounds like some significant changes. Can you summarize it in a short paragraph or 3 sentences?
Sure. Give me 1 second. I've got to go get a different folder. Just a moment.
Sorry.
Madam Speaker, will you yield to me for a moment?
Yes, I will.
Thank you
yield
so
to the
much.
good
Okay,
lady.
let me recognize you. Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
Thank you so much, Madam
Welcome.
Speaker. Would the good chair of my committee tell us, does this change essentially make this bill the same bill as the No Kings bill that we discussed yesterday?
Thank you for that question, and yes, it does.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you. That's teamwork, makes the dream work. So if this is the same bill as the No Kings bill, you can expect a no vote. Thank you.
All right, recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to, if the floor leader could indulge a couple questions here.
Sure.
Go on, leader.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So the part of the bill, I'm having trouble with the floor system coming up. So there was a part of the bill, I believe, on page 3 that dealt with facial recognition, GPS, facial recognition, and authorized the use of the Stingray device to gather up cell phones.
You didn't like that part?
No, I did have a little bit of a part where dragnetting innocent people into some type of database that could never be deleted.
Your wish has been granted. It is no longer in the bill.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. So the question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 351 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 35 votes in the affirmative and 97 votes in the negative, House Bill number 351, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 426, petition for guardianship of the property of alleged disabled persons, stay of civil actions and proceedings, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair for Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We
You're
move to
welcome.
concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 426 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 0 vote in the negative, House Bill number 426, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 497, family law, temporary and final protective orders, duration, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Madam Speaker, we move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 497 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
To explain my vote, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you so much, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
I would have loved to have been green on this bill. Unfortunately, in conjunction with the other bill we passed, this will allow for, instead of a 7-day removal of firearms, 14 days removal for somebody to lose their firearms without any real redress. And so that is why I am unfortunately red.
Okay. The clerk will call the roll and take the call. There being 103 votes in the affirmative and 29 votes in the negative, House Bill number 497, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will call the next bill, please.
House Bill 563, criminal law, emergency response animal, prohibited actions against, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader, the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
We move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 563 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 563, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker, vote
Any
change.
vote change? Good afternoon, the lady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
My button was not working. I'd like to re-record it in the yay for HB 426.
Thank you. The gentleman from Baltimore City.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker.
Good afternoon.
Ditto.
Okay, you have to say it.
HB 426 in the green.
All right, thank you. The clerks
Madam
train me
Speaker.
well. Only after saying it 100 times to me, right? Concurrence calendar number
Madam
16. The clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments. And it's going to be the Committee on Economic Matters, so that you know.
House Bill 149, fire prevention, assistant fire marshals, residential rental high-rise property, fire safety equipment, and fire alarm system technicians. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion to concur with the Senate amendments.
You're welcome. The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 149 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, House Bill number 149, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 308, corporations and associations, principal offices, private mailboxes. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 308 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 132, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 622, cannabis licensees, dispensary licenses, micro dispensary employees, and cannabis agent trading programs. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 622 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative and 30 votes in the negative, House Bill number 622, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 798, economic development, small minority and women-owned business accounts, management fees, small business increased access to capital act. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 798 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 members in the 126 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, House Bill number 798, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 994, business regulation, travel services, special fund fees, and surety requirement. Don't you worry Act. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Motion
welcome.
to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, you have a question?
I just wanted to ask, did the Senate amendments do anything with respect to the fee, which is why I think certain people voted against the bill in its original posture?
No, Mr. Minority Leader, as I read the amendment, it does not.
So it still has a fee?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 994 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, House Bill number 994, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1026, business regulation, rounding cash transactions, authorization. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion to concur
You're
with
welcome.
the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1026 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1026, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will be so kind and read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1100, Telecommunications
Thank you.
Infrastructure Protections, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Motion
welcome.
to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1100 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1100, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1473, Economic Development, Maryland's Future Board Establishment, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Motion
welcome.
to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House. Yes? Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you. Could the floor leader tell us, did the Senate version of this remove the $1.7 million fiscal note?
No, it did not.
Thank you.
House Bill number 1473 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 104 votes in the affirmative and 25 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1473, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Concurrence calendar number 17. The clerk will read the first bill and the Senate
Speaker.
amendments. Recognizing the majority leader.
Vote change.
Oh, vote change.
Sorry. 994 in the green.
Okay. Any other vote change? Recognizing the delegate from Carroll.
House Bill 1473 to no, please.
Okay. The lady from Frederick.
House Bill 497 to no, please.
Anyone else? All right. Concurrence calendar number 17. The clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 753, Tax Sales, Homeowner Protections, Revisions, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House, you're welcome, is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 753 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 753, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1232, Baltimore City Economic Development Project in Downtown Rise District, Payment in lieu of Taxes, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Movement to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1232 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1232, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Report of the Committee on Government, Labor, and Elections. It is report number 42. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 255, Voting Rights Act of 2026, Counties and Municipal Corporations. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to withdraw the committee amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the committee amendment. Oh, no, excuse me, to withdraw the committee amendment. Hearing no objection, the amendments are withdrawn. Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the chair of the
The
committee...
chair of the committee, 1 second.
Yeah.
We have to finish the,
Oh.
one
Yes.
second.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
All right.
Sorry about that.
You have to
amendment
also offer
number-
the substitute.
Yes, amendment
The
at the desk, excuse me. Number 353027/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Let's see, excuse me. So I move the adoption of the substitute committee amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the substitute for the committee amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. I'll go to the question. Go ahead.
Thank you. Would the
welcome.
committee chair tell us what this bill does? Or whomever you
Committee
like.
chair.
I see
Floor
many
leader.
of you.
The floor leader.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good to see you, Mr. Minority Leader. So the Maryland Voting Rights Act of 2026.
Hold on 1 second. Let me ask the clerk, do I need to adopt the report first?
Yes.
I do. So let me ask the question first, okay, Minority Leader?
That's fine. Thank you, Madam.
Yes, I just didn't want to miss you. So the question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Now, are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title or questions? There you go.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I don't think the floor system is working.
Give us a minute. It's working up here. It's not working for you?
The chair of appropriations and I's floor system is working just fine.
Ours is fine. Is yours
And the good
okay?
delegate from Baltimore City, our floor systems are top notch. I wouldn't know where my laptop is.
Give me 1 second.
Madam Speaker,
Who's-
we're having a conversation, so. we can
1
have-
minute. Whose system is not working? Raise your hand. It just came back. All right. Let's
Just the bad ones, Mr.
It's
Madam Speaker.
okay. It's possessed. It's all right. So why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Thank you. I'm wondering what this bill labeled Voting Rights Act, Counties and Municipal Corporations actually does.
Let's
Thank-
listen to the full leader. Full leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minority Leader. And a basic summary of it is the bill prohibits a method of electing the governing body of a county or municipal corporation that dilutes the votes of members of a protected class. The Attorney General and private parties are authorized to file lawsuits to enforce the bill.
So I remember sitting on Ways and Means in the election committee for many years, and there were bills about some counties choose, and maybe some cities, but I particularly remember some counties choose to elect their county commissioners or county council, whatever they call it, through different methodologies. Sometimes they say, I know I'm not from Garrett County, but I know how they elect their commissioners. They elect 3 of them, and you get elected county-wide, but there has to be one from each district. So let's say you have District 1, 2, and 3. You have to live in District 1, but everyone from the whole county votes for people in District 1, 2, and 3. And I recall some bills that suggested that somehow that would be improper. Do you sat next to me for several years on that committee. Do you recall those bills?
I don't recall sitting next to you for however many years. No, I do. I
You were
recall
right there.
I do recall many of these.
I got the committee chair, and then I got you, and then you guys left. I hope it wasn't my fault, but yeah.
I can tell you, I don't know why he doesn't remember, because you're very memorable.
Yes. So what I'm getting at is, I remember hearing a lot about these bills and that certain individuals thought it was unconstitutional because, and I remember it particularly, and I don't mean to call out people's counties, and I hope I'm getting this right. There was some consternation about St. Mary's County and how they chose their county commissioners, and those bills never went through. They never went into law. Is this bill related at all to that?
So this bill is more related to dealing with how the current Federal Voting Rights Act operates and how we deal with issues around vote dilution. That is diminishing the ability for protected classes to be able to to express their desire at the ballot box and have an equal access to the ballot and equal access to vote. And so this kind of brings the federal concept down to the state level and to the state courts to look at our counties and municipalities.
Would the bill prohibit, in theory, and allow a cause of action if a county said, hey, I don't have any districts. We just elect our county commissioners, county council, whatever term you want to use, throughout the whole county. Top 5 get in, top 5 win.
Right. So that there's a lot of different ways, as you already alluded to, that counties do this already. So yes.
So, but that's my point. Is it defining what is permissible and what is not? Because the bills that I recall, and I'm concerned that this may be sort of a tricky way to get there. The bills that I recall said, hey, you have to allow district by district voting, and only the people in that district can vote for that district, because if you don't, you're diluting our vote, despite the fact that a wide variety of places don't do it that way. Would this bill substantively define that?
It does not substantively define exactly how the court would remedy a vote dilution case. There is a few avenues the court can go down. This bill simply outlines if there is an instance of vote dilution where polarized voting is identified, that the individual or the attorney general has the right to access the state courts to request the court to review that vote dilution and make a recommended remedy.
Wouldn't an individual already today have the right to bring such an action under federal law, equal protection claims, which can always be brought in state court, a variety of theories? Why do we need a new law to say that you can sue if you think your votes are being diluted because of the system of voting for a county or city?
I got it. Yeah, and thank you for that question. Yes, there is currently still a federal VRA in place and a process in place. As I'm sure many attorneys on this floor, of which I am not one, can probably express to you, it is a very cumbersome and complicated process by which you file a federal VRA claim, and has become more complicated over the last few decades as the federal government has parsed back on its efforts to actually address vote dilution issues. And so this process with the Maryland VRA actually just looks at making a streamlined statewide process that looks very similar to the federal VRA.
Are you adopting all the same standards expressly of the Federal Voting Rights Act? So the Supreme Court, multiple occasions over the last 3, 5, maybe, I want to be charitable, maybe 10 years, has, as you said, ramped back the Voting Rights Act and ramped back some of the stringency that was inherent in the Voting Rights Act. They've changed the calculus. If you're just saying we're going to create our own state Voting Rights Act that mirrors or that is intended to be commensurate with theirs, does it interpret expressly their case law?
It does not. It is not exact, and it does not directly interpret. There are some differences in the bill. However, what it is designed to do is simply streamline that process by identifying, as I said before, that individuals that are in protected classes are experiencing polarized voting, and they're able to show that there is an alternative voting method that is available. I'm sorry, an alternative remedy to that challenge in order to address the vote dilution that's happening.
What was the genesis of the bill? Because I remember hearing this 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago about a couple of counties, the way they did their county commissioners, someone didn't like, but yet to the best of my knowledge, no one filed a lawsuit, and definitely to the best of my knowledge, no one won a lawsuit. So what problem are you trying to identify? Did someone come to the committee and say, I believe in my county or my city, my vote is being diluted, I'm the member of the protected class, and I need you to do this?
Okay.
I don't remember seeing a House cross-file or anything like that.
So Maryland has actually had a number of VRA cases that have come forward to the federal government. So it's one of the reasons we're bringing it forward. Wacomico is one of the more recent cases that we can point to, but we've seen a couple of different instances. I think you referenced some challenges too that happened in St. Mary's County and others. There's these vote dilution questions that are out there, and again, we're looking to bring this inward into the state of Maryland.
Was it the position of the committee or anything written in the bill that, again, and I think I asked this, but I think maybe you and I weren't thinking in the same way. I just want to get some clarity. If my county chooses to elect, and I'll tell you, that's how my county does it. We have 3 county commissioners.
Yep.
We have no districts.
Yep.
You run from the edge of Garrett to the edge of Washington, everybody votes. Top 3 win. Just the same way we do it here in the House of Delegates. 3-member districts, single-member districts. We draw some districts that have components to it so that some protected classes may have a better chance of getting elected. But if you run in a 3-member district, they don't carve it out and say, this portion of the district has a heavier percentage of black Marylanders than that portion of the district, so in that district, they win. Top 3. So that's how my county, several other counties do it. Is that going to be threatened by this bill to say that, well, you have to do it by districts so that you can create, and I'll be honest with you, what the Voting Rights Act traditionally did, federally, was it took states, predominantly in the Deep South, but sometimes other places, and what it did is it said that there are enough members of a minority or protected class stretched throughout the state that they should have some level of representation roughly equivalent to their population in the state. But because of the geographic positioning of them, lines are drawn so that they don't. And so if you go to states like, if you look at congressional maps in places like Alabama, Louisiana, other states, you will see that there are districts that have what, if you didn't know it was a Voting Rights Act case, you would say, well, that's a gerrymander because the lines are running from one end of the state to the other. And what they're doing, though, is picking up minority communities. We have one such district here. I think we were aware of that. There's one such district here in the House of Delegates that was created through the Voting Rights Act on the Eastern Shore that similarly picks up quite a few different communities from county to county to county to county in the Eastern Shore. Is it the committee's intention with this bill to begin creating that at the city and county level?
No. And so it's very important to note that this is a very prescriptive process that they're talking about, which follows much of what the federal law already has in place. The first thing you have to do is you have to identify the protected class, which can be any minority group that is being systematically having their votes diluted through what's called polarized voting. And we define polarized voting in the bill so you can see exactly how we are identifying how a protected class. So in your specific situation in Garrett County, Allegheny, sorry, like I said, I got myself confused there. In Allegheny County, you would have to, first, an individual or the Attorney General would have to show that there is a protected class whose vote is being diluted through what's called polarized voting, where the majority is inherently stopping the minority from being able to elect the person of which is of their interest. And so there's a whole slew of case law and ways that this is all done through data, through research, et cetera. And then the case is brought forward to the court to examine all of that information, which is what is prescribed inside of the bill as well. And then at the tail, after that is all said and done, if they do indeed find that polarized voting to a protected class has caused vote dilution, then the court has the ability to issue a remedy to that polarized voting and that vote dilution.
What was the position of the Maryland Association of Counties on the bill?
The Maryland Association of Counties was opposed to the bill. They had some amendments that they wanted. We did not adopt the amendments.
What about the Maryland Municipal League that represents our cities and municipalities?
The Maryland Municipal League was also opposed to the bill.
So the counties and the cities were opposed to the bill to change the voting systems for the counties and the cities. Is that fair to say?
Yes, they talked about the fact, well, specifically citing MML's testimony. They cited that they were concerned that if there is cases of vote dilution happening, they would be at increased legal risk and cost because they're diluting minority voters' rights.
Who pays the legal costs when the Attorney General of the state of Maryland sues a county of the state of Maryland?
That is the taxpayers of Maryland paying through the Attorney General's office.
Right, and then it's the taxpayers of the county paying the county attorney, or my guess would be, quite honestly, for small counties, they won't have the capacity to do this. They'll have to hire private attorneys to defend them who will charge them through the nose, as we are sometimes prone to do, and then all of this will wind up being taxpayer-funded attorneys to fight over how counties elect their county commissioners.
Which is very similar to what already happens with the federal VRA when individuals bring forward lawsuits against individual municipalities, states, jurisdictions that lead to vote dilution.
Typically, under the Voting Rights Act currently, most of the complaints are actually brought by individuals.
Well,
so the taxpayers aren't paying. It's usually probably a nonprofit. It's some type of legal entity that's typically paying rather than the Attorney General. To the best of my knowledge, the Attorney General of the United States has not brought a Voting Rights Act claim in multiple years.
That is true, but the jurisdictions that are defending these vote dilutions that are happening in these jurisdictions are paying. In fact, in one letter that we received, it was cited that Baltimore County paid out more than $800,000 in taxpayer dollars through county lawyers to defend its maps a few years ago.
$800,000 of taxpayer money to defend maps. And what happened in? I used to live in Baltimore County, but I don't keep up with it as much as what I used to. What happened as a result of that case? I mean, that's more money than most members of this chamber can get.
Yep, the court found a violation, and that they needed to remedy the discrimination.
And you know what the remedy was?
To redraw the maps.
So they redrew the maps.
Yep.
And is there any indication that redrawing of the maps is going to result in additional minority representation by percentage in Baltimore County? So Baltimore County, I think, not sure, did they have 7 county council before?
Yes.
Okay. And now how many are they going to have?
What's that? Now they're going to have, I'm sorry, they're going to have 9. I apologize.
Now they're going to have 9. And if I recall correctly, previously they had 1 black Marylander, Councilman Jones.
Correct.
And now we don't know exactly how it'll turn out under the current maps, but it's potentially likely that they'd have 2.
Correct.
So 1 of 7, 2 of 9, and that was $800,000.
2, and again 2, maybe 3. And again, the important part there is addressing the vote dilution that is happening.
Okay, I'm going to have, since it's a Senate bill, we have quite a few amendments on third reader, but we'll bring them forward and get those to you before third reader.
I really appreciate that,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Minority Leader. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford and the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. If the floor leader could just help me with the hypothetical. I'm curious about my own county. I don't think there's vote dilution happening. I'm not aware of any cases or any complaints about it, but we do have, the way our council is set up, it has an even number of members, 6 members, and an at-large council president. Okay. Is that, without an actual case being brought, could that potentially be in violation of this law if someone was to bring a case? Because there's a difference between how it's set up. We've got specific areas represented in the 6th, and the 6 people, and then we've got at large for the council president.
So you have six districts, and again, even with district voting, the lines could result in vote dilution. So if an individual or the Attorney General brought forward a case, was able to show polarized voting and vote dilution happening, then the courts would remedy that by changing the district lines. I believe that you can have an at-large member or a mixture of the two, just as long as it doesn't show that it's causing vote dilution.
Okay, so there would not be an automatic triggering of a problem or potential problem here. It would. Okay, I understand. So even now, a case could have already been brought for the 6 council seats, anyways,
to the
for
federal
vote dilution.
For the federal VRA.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
A couple questions for the floor leader.
Floor leader.
Madam Speaker, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening.
So I'm glad you pointed this out in the bill. I picked it up in the other discussion that you were having. Polarized voting.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that term in my life. It is in the bill. Do you want me to read it, or you want to read it, or?
Please, go ahead. I've talked enough.
Polarized voting means voting in which there is a difference in the choice of candidates or the electoral choice that are preferred by voters in a protective class. And in the choice of the candidate and in the electoral choices that are preferred by another class or a set of classes. So does that mean that if there's a protective class in the county, that just because there's a protective class and that protective class as a group rather have another candidate, therefore they can bring a lawsuit to change how elections been occurring for centuries?
So I'll start with pointing out that the word protected class is actually defined right underneath that definition. So I would encourage you first to read the
I know what a protective class is.
Right. So when we're talking about protected class, we're talking about that group of people. To your question about whether or not anybody can just bring this case forward, the answer is no. You have to show that there is a protected class that is having a challenge, that polarized voting, which is a word that has existed in our legal context forever, but polarized voting exists, and that because of the polarized voting, that it is leading to vote dilution, which is what is the critical linchpin of the entire case in order to bring forward.
Explain to me vote dilution, and how do you know that?
Sure. So since 1965, when we passed the Voting Rights Act at the federal level, the courts had to come up with multiple ways to understand how the votes of protected classes is being infringed upon, and they are being blocked to having an equal access to the ballot. They use multiple ways through statistics, through studying how voting patterns happen, to studying how turnout patterns happen. All of that is studied in all of these VRA cases that have been happening for the last 60 years. And we've seen it time and time again where advocates, or individuals or lawyers have brought forward cases, and they show that through statistical anomalies, which can't be justified in any other way than the fact that that protected class's vote is being diluted, that there's no other way to show it, the courts then rule in favor of the individual bringing forward the case.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, I don't disagree with 60 years.
I always go back to the presidential election of 81 million votes by Joe Biden. That was a statistical nominally. Can you tell me? So I'm wondering why state legislative districts are not in this bill. Because in my county's population is actually smaller than my senator's legislative district. So if it's good enough to put in counties and municipalities, why would the state be exempted?
So again, with this specific bill, what we're looking at is we have the Attorney General's authority to be able to look at these counties in addition to individuals. However, the state, as you know, cannot sue itself.
Still, what on our own districts, why wouldn't they be included? Because I'll tell you, we have a small town in southern Maryland called Charlotte Hall. And if you're on one side of the Charlotte Hall, you're in the Charles County side, and you can vote for 3 delegates sitting on 3 different committees. But if you're on the other side, you can vote for 1 delegate standing on 1 committee. How do you tell if an area if the voters have been diluted based on, how do you know how they vote?
That, again, has nothing, this bill has to do with outlining the process by which individuals bring an action, which have been happening for the last over 60 years. I know you're hearing it as a redundant statement, but it is a redundant statement. Experts come forward and they have modeling that they can show, and they have all the way down to neighborhood level data to be able to understand, and polling based data. We know how the votes go in each of the polling places. We don't know who individually is voting for who, but they are able to then produce analysis and results that show that vote dilution is happening. And again, this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. This has been across the courts for over 60 years now. They've been figuring this out.
But on the vote dilution, just because a certain precinct votes for one candidate or another and maybe one political party, how do you determine that it's any harm happening?
And that's the important thing to remember, is not every single election results in vote dilution. That's not what this bill says. This bill says that in order for there to be a case, that you have to come forward to the court as an individual or as the Attorney General to be able to show that protected classes have had their votes diluted through polarized voting. That is a very specific process which the bill painfully outlines exactly all the requirements in order just for you to bring the case, just to bring the case forward, is my point.
I'll let this go, Madam Speaker, because I don't want to waste any more time. But the way I read the polarized voting, this is talking about complaining about outcome instead of what's actually on the ballot.
Yep.
So it's completely different. Districts change. They change every 10 years.
Yep.
So to sit there and say that because one district or one precinct didn't get the outcome that they want, that they can bring a lawsuit against an entire county is very divisive.
I will just say again, it is required in order to bring these cases forward that we show that a population of people are being consistently locked out of the electoral or elections process.
That's all my questions. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just briefly wanted, if the floor leader wouldn't mind if I...
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank
Madam
you. I
Speaker.
just wanted to briefly address the minority leader's questions regarding Baltimore County. And so in Baltimore County, this really goes back to 2022, which was before the district change. And in 2022, at the normal 10-year redistricting, decade redistricting, the Baltimore County Council, which I will mention is a Democratic majority council, so this is not a partisan issue, drew a racially gerrymandered map. And a number of parties, including my senator, the sponsor of the bill, had to take Baltimore County to court under a Voting Rights Act violation. That there was a remedy ordered to draw a new map. That new map was improved, but not as good as advocates had hoped. And then there was a second time, and that was the part that was referred to when Baltimore County increased the number of districts in 2025, and the Baltimore County Council again drew a racially gerrymandered map. Unfortunately, court case was avoided in that case. So I did just want to clarify those questions about Baltimore County.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And the statewide version of this VRA, to the good delegate's point, would actually streamline that process and potentially save taxpayers' dollars as we're moving forward.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Prince George's.
Thank you. Would the floor leader please yield for a very quick question?
Yes.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to thank you for bringing this bill forward. I think it's a great bill. And to my good friend, the minority leader, he made a comment referencing some other bills that have been brought forth about commission districts. So hypothetically speaking, and we've heard Southern Maryland invoked, so in Calvert County, say if there are communities that are predominantly African American, would this bill enable that community or interest groups to come together and to be able to bring forth a case because they feel that their vote is being diluted or that they are being disproportionately affected in
Yes,
a negative way.
If they can show they're a protected class and that there's polarized voting happening in that against that protected class, blocking their access either electorally or to the ballot or to election, yes, they can absolutely bring it forward, and it would be then studied by the court, learn whether or not vote dilution exists, and if they do identify that vote dilution is indeed happening, then the court would issue remedies.
And what would your definition again of a protected class be, just for the record?
Protected class, as defined by the bill, means a class of voters who are members of a race, color, or language minority group, or a class of two or more of these groups.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
I'm going to call on the gentleman from the Eastern Shore, but then I need the rest to sit because it's a bit confusing, okay? Thank you so much. Recognizing the gentleman from one person at a time, the floor leader and the person asking the question, please.
Thank you, Madam
Recognizing
Speaker.
the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
I do
welcome.
have a question for the floor leader.
Floor leader.
Since we're talking about
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yeah,
You're
since we're
welcome.
talking about counties, I think Prince George's County has 11 members. 10 are African American and one white person on the Prince George's County Council. So I think the breakdown in Prince George's County is 62% black, 28% white, or two. Okay. So and then 5% Asian. So if there was an Asian community in Prince George's County, they can come together and basically, address whatever grievances they might have in regards
Correct.
to.
As required by the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, any Voting Rights Act is always drawn as race neutral. I will mention that as the protected class brings forward a case, there is a section, you can look on your bill on page 4, 15.7-105, that just reminds the court that but says that the court will look at the risk of voting discrimination, including the history and effects of discrimination against the protected class and the extent to which the protected class members encounter barriers, disparities, or hostility regarding political participation in civic life. So that all is also inside of the bill to talk about those disparities.
Okay, and then it's just under 30% of Prince George's County residents are white, but they could not be afforded that opportunity, correct?
No, they can if they can show that if they can show that there is polarized voting against any protected class. Again, the legislation is drawn race neutral. If it can show that there is polarized voting and that they are being denied access to the candidate of their choice over the majority population, then they can show, and they're able to show the courts that is leading to a vote dilution, then yes, as is true with the federal VRA as well.
So it's not strictly drawn based along race or protected class then, specifically?
No, protected class is defined as a class of voters who are members of a race, color, or language minority group, or a class of two or three more of these groups. So as you pointed out, people who are white in Prince George's County are technically the minority class.
I gotcha. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. The gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Were you done already? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam
The gentleman
Speaker.
from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Floor Leader.
The floor leader, please.
Madam Speaker, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Good evening.
Mr. Floor, good evening. Good to see you again.
Yep.
How do we get to vote dilution? I feel like that would mean that folks, regardless of age, race, sex, color, anything, don't have agency over themselves, and they can't move, or they can't. That there's massive barriers to, like as outlined in the bill, to voting and these type of things. So I can't think of any. So how do we get to vote dilution?
Yep. So that is exactly what this is designed to address, that exact question. When an individual brings forward a case that says that my county or my municipality is diluting votes, the first thing they have to do is show that there is polarized voting happening, that a minority community is being systematically blocked from access to the ballot. Now you can ask, how can they do that? That's where all of these experts come in, and they talk about what does the vote totals look like in these districts historically, how many, for example, how many candidates of that minority class have been elected in that jurisdiction. They can look at, there is dozens and dozens of different criteria that the courts look at when they deal with the federal VRA cases currently. And what they do is at the end, through the preponderance of evidence, they're able to then conclude that indeed there is a vote dilution happening, and it requires us to step in and provide a remedy to solve that vote dilution. So it's not what you're thinking of back in the day with Jim Crow era, you know,
Right,
there's a
reverse
test to get
two-thirds.
to the ballot box, but that doesn't mean vote dilution isn't still happening. It very much is still happening, and the courts find it consistently year after year.
But would that be based on the amount of candidates and the candidates that step up? I mean, would that be, is that part of the weighting system? And who is the burden of proof on? Is the burden of proof on the county or the jurisdiction, or is the burden of proof on the person who brought the suit? Right. Is there a rebuttable presumption of guilt upon the municipality, or?
So as always, the burden of proof would be on the plaintiff bringing forward the case, but in general, but I would say that that's not, it doesn't cover that question in the bill at all. Again, the bill opens up the process to go through the state court system to identify, so that the court can look at these individual cases and determine whether or not vote dilution has happened.
And I guess I would press my question, how is that weighted? Because we have different areas that have different amounts of candidates based on community, and some communities have less representation in those areas.
Right.
So how would that be weighted?
We're getting into the court case now, and that's the problem.
And we
because,
should for the legislative record.
Well, but I'm saying that if when the court case is brought forward, the plaintiff brings forward the experts and the individual information that helps for the court to weigh, is there polarized voting happening in this jurisdiction? They are weighing whether or not that polarized voting is leading to vote dilution, and moreover, is the class a protected class that is bringing the suit in the first place? So once they're able to address those three key questions, then the court can make a determination based on the evidence that the plaintiff has brought forward to address to state that there is a vote dilution. Then the court is able to say, okay, the vote dilution is happening. We need to remedy it. Here's the remedies we can look at.
So my concern is you use the term leading versus the outcome is voter dilution. So are we looking for leading to voter dilution, or are we looking for actual voter dilution?
No. So I'm sorry if that word threw you off. When an individual brings a case forward, the court is seeking information to understand whether or not vote dilution is happening. They are the neutral arbiter here. They're simply looking at the facts, and they're trying to determine whether or not a vote dilution is occurring, and if it is, then they can move forward.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Floor
Thank you.
Leader.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the gentleman from Cecil.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
If you don't mind, a few
Floor
more
Leader.
questions.
Madam Speaker, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I, too, had the privilege of sitting next to you in Ways and Means, so I didn't want the minority
I don't know what
leaders
story you all are making up, but
leave that out of the story here. But I did have a few questions, just more fact-finding than anything else. Would this apply to school board seats?
The bill does not apply to school boards.
Okay, so school boards are not covered with this bill. My second question is, and this is a huge milestone for Maryland. If you go and look at the census website, census data, Maryland is now a plurality African American state. I don't know if you were aware of that or not.
I believe it's probably the most diverse state in the East Coast.
That is correct. So, which would indicate to me that Caucasians are now in the minority. Would that sort of de facto say that in any place or in any election, there would be an ability to file suit or bring case for Caucasians to say that they were discriminated against in a district?
Yeah, as I said before, they would have to prove a number of facts to the case in order to bring a case forward. The court would also consider, and I just want to point to it again, the section on page 4, section 15.7-105, which is an area that the court can consider as well as it's considering that case. But yes, the legislation is drafted race neutral, as is required by the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
Okay, great. And then I noticed that the vote in the committee appeared to be bipartisan. Could you sort of like denote what was the vote count?
Yeah,
for and against the bill.
The original vote count was 10 to 8. We did make an adjustment, and we had another vote in the committee, and I believe it was, forgive me, 15 to 3.
Okay, thank you. And then back to the school board issue. Is that something that you're open to adding into the bill, or what was the justification for leaving that out?
So that was the bill draft. The original bill sponsor never put them in, so we never researched really how closely it would be. I would mention state board of educational boards do operate through the state, so there would be some confusion there about whether or not the state would be suing itself. Sure. In those cases, so we would have to address all of those, probably best set for a different bill.
Okay, and then my last question is, again, back to the minority leader. He outlined an instance whereas county elected officials are run at large and are voted at large, top 3, top 5, what have you. There's other instances where counties have districts, they require residency, but they run at large for the entire county. So that's sort of in the middle of what he was describing and what we are here at Cecil. So would something like that qualify for a case if it was found that there was disenfranchisement at the local level for the district?
Yeah, so when courts look at vote dilution, you know, historically their answers have been really one of essentially 2 or 3 in your case that they're looking at. One, you have at-large districts, and you really need to talk about breaking up those districts into, breaking up that at-large district into individual member districts. 2, you're looking at taking the existing districts and rearranging the lines so that the vote dilution is removed. Or 3, you're obviously looking at in cases where individuals have a district where they represent a district but they're elected countywide, you're also looking at whether or not that would go in district.
Okay, and in that instance, if that was a charter county, for example, where there was a county executive and they have a charter, if the plaintiff or the person that filed was to prevail, would the courts be able to override that charter, that county executive form of government, even if it was written as such in their charter?
Yes.
They would. Okay, well, thank you so much for answering those questions.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right. Seeing no other questions, the bill is order printed.
Madam.
Who has a question? Oh, you got up pretty late recognizing the delegate from Hartford. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Just a quick, some things I'm thinking about, because I actually started out in local government, okay? And I guess what I'm concerned about is that they started the local government insurance trust, okay? And that takes care of different things that, like if the municipality or the city has problems. It started out because no one could get insurance for environmental hazards that the municipalities or the counties had. But it's local government insurance trust is mainly, well, no, I think Baltimore City is part of it, but any other, it's for the municipalities. Maryland has at least 154 municipalities, and some of them are very, very small, and some of them are very, very large, like Baltimore City. So where I'm coming with this is that I don't think, both MACO and MML had a real concern about this, and I think it's legitimate if then the community could be sued, the municipality or the county. So anyway, I looked up NCSL because I don't know that much about the Voting Rights Act, and this is kind of the new part of what's going on. And they're saying some court cases, notably in Washington and New York states, have been involved in arguments that these states' Voting Rights Acts violate the U.S. Constitution because they are too focused on race. You're seeing a number of jurisdictions when polarized voting is not where it was in the 1960s. Catherine McKnight, a partner of the law firm of Baker Hostetler, says voting is polarized, but it's not along racial lines, it's along political lines. A law designated to address the racial discrimination of the 1960s, she says, is no longer fit to address today's issues. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there because I think we're all thinking it's a race issue because of what's happened in Baltimore County, kind of like that they feel that they need more representation on the county council. So with that said, I think that we're maybe rushing too far ahead, and we're not really ready to deal with all of the issues, because insurance is a very important issue, because these communities are small, and some of them very, very small. I mean, Bel Air has 10,000. I think Aberdeen has 14,000. Havre de Grace, I'm not going to say how many they have, but this is just in my county. Okay, so what I'm concerned about is that maybe a task force would be better than let's just put the law in right away. So I kind of wanted to give you this advice from an old coot, okay, who's leaving this assembly. But I think, it sounds good, but I don't think we're ready for prime time.
So I will say, I appreciate your thoughts on the bill. I will just say that the bill specifically does not address anything regarding politicization or political parties or anything along those lines. It is designed to match what exists in the federal VRA. It's designed to come forward in good faith to address vote dilution issues. I hear the concerns of MACO, I hear the concerns of MML, and I would say that I wish that we were not actively blocking access to the polling places for minority classes across the state of Maryland. But as we've seen from federal VRA cases, we are. And so we need to be able to address those issues no matter what the size of the municipality is. And so with that, I would say that I think that we do have to address these issues, and that I'm happy to see a bill like this come forward that has been so well thought out.
Have there been any real cases that the law has not been able to deal with here right now?
Baltimore County, Wacomico County. We've got, you certainly heard from the minority leader that there's questions and issues in St. Mary's County. You've got issues all, not all over the state, but over the state.
But have they been resolved?
They have. The Baltimore County, the Wacomico County case and the Baltimore County case were both settled that there was vote dilution happening, that it had to be resolved by the courts. It couldn't be resolved by existing law. And then when they brought that forward, the point is that those cases drug on for years when they didn't have to. Through this legislation, it would actually streamline the process and get to that answer a lot faster, which would save all of us as taxpayers a little bit more money.
This is new legislation on the local level in the states, and I think that there's not that many states that have actually picked it up. California was one, and New York, and then
9 total states.
Well, 9 out of 50 ain't that great, really.
But you got to start somewhere. So
okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 641, State Procurement Exceptions, Historic Preservation Services. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of amendments.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
There are 2 amendments. The first one clarifies that procurements for subcontractors are not exempt from certain procurement requirements. And the second amendment renames this bill the Honorable Barry S. Siliberti Historic Preservation Act of 2026. Madam Speaker, permission to use the delegate's name?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Congratulations.
Delegate Siliberti, colleagues, is the only man who I have served with on the same committee for 8 sessions, my 8 sessions here. I have to admit that I initially regarded him as a bit of an eccentric, maybe even a bit of an anachronism, but I have come to appreciate Delegate Siliberti as perhaps the most interesting man here on the floor. So this bill is about historic preservation, Madam Speaker, and I think that in every sense of the word, Delegate Siliberti is living history. He was born before Social Security, penicillin, the polio vaccine, televisions, central air conditioning, and this is actually not a joke, he was born before sliced bread. By the 1980s, Delegate Siliberti had found his calling after he accumulated various degrees. He was on the front lines of the school board battles in Montgomery County, where he was on the side of getting back to the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and fighting all of the woke stuff before they called it woke stuff. He rode the Gingrich wave to Annapolis in 1994. Here he distinguished himself with one pet cause, which is to vociferously fight against mandatory volunteerism. I have not been able to find anyone else to confirm this was actually an issue at the time, but Delegate Ciliberti made it his own. He then launched immediately a primary challenge against then Congresswoman Connie Morella, who he claimed, quote unquote, is not a real damn Republican. Delegate Ciliberti then lost his seat, unfortunately, in 1998, but he didn't sit around and sulk. Instead, he went to Iraq. Now, no, not to fight, but he went on a couple civilian tours for the Department of State where he actually coordinated elections in Baghdad. And then he rejoined the body in 2015, and his first official act upon returning was to pay fines for 8 consecutive delinquent campaign finance reports. But then he got back to work, Madam Speaker. He is actually, and I asked the library, he is the oldest person to serve in the Maryland General Assembly in its history. He will be 90 later this year. He told me that he opposed mandatory volunteerism back in the day because he believes that service should be given freely, and that's the only service that's worth doing. And he has now given nearly 2 decades of his life to this institution freely, repeatedly, even after being asked to leave once before. And so, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, Delegate Ciliberti is my friend. I will miss him. And I think that sliced bread is the best thing since Delegate Ciliberti. Move the amendment.
Congratulations.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a question for the floor leader.
Floor leader.
Was it you or Delegate Ciliberti who pulled the fire alarm this morning at the Waterfront Hotel?
Thank you for the question. Delegate Ciliberti and I have collaborated on a number of different issues in Annapolis, and we may or may not have been working together this morning at the Marriott Waterfront.
Madam Speaker. I have a question for the floor leader.
Recognizing the delegate from
To adopt the
Hartford.
amendment.
Floor leader.
Do we need to adopt the amendment first,
We
Madam
need
Speaker?
to adopt the amendment.
I'm worried. We got to get this one adopted.
All right. So here it goes. Congratulations. The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose?
Roll call. Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call. There you go. He was supported. Let's go. All right. The clerk will take the call. All right. So, the ayes have it, 127 votes. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none.
I have a question for the floor leader.
All right. I'm going to recognize the gentleman from Hartford County.
Thank you. Just a very brief question. In your conversations with the good delegate, in the elections that he arranged in Baghdad, were there absentee ballots allowed for those?
Only the ones that he himself controlled the outcome for.
Madam
All right.
Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the delegate from Frederick.
Is it possible to move to journalize the good floor leader's remarks about my wonderful colleague? Is that a doable thing?
No.
Oh. So I'm going to have to remember them on my own?
I thought you were going to get up and say, can we move to third reader? All right. So you want to do it? You want to do it?
Madam
Go
Speaker,
ahead.
Madam Speaker, I move
Yes.
that we
seek to suspend the rules and freak out the clerks, and I'm going to talk a little while so that she can get everything figured out.
Oh, it has to be passed to third reader, and then we can do it.
Oh, right.
All right. Is order passed to third reader? We're going to do 2 readers in one day.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So this
Madam
is a
Speaker?
first for me. So,
Madam Speaker,
yes.
I would move to have 2 readings in one day on Senate Bill 641.
So the question before the House is to allow the bill to have 2 readings on the same day. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative, the bill is on third reading. Is there any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, Senate Bill 641, in honor of the delegate, received a constitutional majority. Senate Bill 641 is declared passed. Wow, this was our first
Madam
2
Speaker.
reading in a day.
Madam Speaker.
Congratulations, yes.
I'd like to be recorded in the green on the last vote.
All right, make sure you give us your yellow slip, recognizing the delegate from Frederick.
I'd like to explain my vote.
Yes, go ahead.
Just
Go ahead and recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City.
Yes, Madam Speaker. In all my excitement, I didn't get a chance to vote. I want to be recorded in the green on SB 641.
All right.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from
In all my
Hartford.
excitement, I got my bill numbers mixed up, and I'm going to be in the green on this bill.
All right. Woo-hoo. All right, so everyone present, all 130 in the green. Congratulations. Many blessings to you. The clerk, we have now the report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation. It is report number 24. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 111, vehicle laws, out-of-state vehicles, improper registration. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader. Let's listen. Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Senate Bill 111. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
As amended, SB 111 requires the Motor Vehicle Administration to engage in a specified process to facilitate compliance with state vehicle registration requirements when MVA has reasonable cause to believe that a motor vehicle owner is a resident of the state, but has failed to properly register the motor vehicle with MVA and display registration plates issued by MVA. The amendments strike the provision authorizing Maryland trailers to be registered out of state and limits the titling tax exemption amnesty period for certain vehicles to 3 months. Move the amendments. Is that okay? Move the amendments, please, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Did I do it?
I don't know. Should we? Okay, the question before you, anything. The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary. It is report number 44. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 187, Correctional Services, Comprehensive Rehabilitative and Reentry Service, Female Incarcerated Individuals. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is amended. 1 second. This is favorable with amendment. Yep. Apologize. It's okay. So recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 replaces the term re-entry with pre-release, alters the definition of eligible individual, alters requirements relating to the site and capacity of the facility and the services to be provided, alters the timeline for the planning, construction, and operation of the facility, alters reporting deadlines, and makes technical changes. Please move the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 360, Criminal Law, Emergency Response Animal, Prohibited Actions Against Favorable Amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader, the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
The amendment conforms the Senate bill to the House Bill 563, which we just voted out a few minutes ago. Please move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 810, Immigration Enforcement, Expanding Sensitive Locations, Notification, and Guidance, Maryland Values Act of 2026. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
The first amendment is technical. The second amendment replaces the term judicial officer with covered officer. Additionally, it requires courthouses to implement a policy and update it annually. The policy may consider the guidance issued by the Attorney General with regard to immigration enforcement. I move the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 45. The clerk will read the bill, please.
Senate Bill 512, Criminal Law, Stalking, Penalties. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will not have a bill yet. Report of the Committee on Ways and Means, report number 40. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 767, Property Tax Credit for Commercial Buildings Rented to Small Businesses. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Quorum call.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 128 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading Senate bills number 75. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 508, Somerset County Board of Education, alterations.
Senate Bill 508 is on third reading and final passage and is an emergency bill. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 129 votes in the affirmative and no votes in the negative, Senate Bill 508, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 705, Caroline County Board of Education, member compensation increase.
Senate Bill 705 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 130 votes in the affirmative and no votes in the negative, Senate Bill 705, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed, and the clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 792, Hospitals Immigration Enforcement Action Policy Requirement.
Senate Bill 792 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? The delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think my colleague from Harford County may have an amendment.
Thank you so much.
Delegate from Harford County.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I do have an amendment at the desk. Let me just make sure I get the number right, since my numbers are getting confused today. This is amendment number 193324/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Okay, folks. This is a good amendment, and I hope that it will be received as such, but I'm not holding my breath. But I will explain why I think it's a good amendment. What it does is it adds to the bill requirements that allow for investigations or prosecutions relating to anti-terrorism related offenses, any patient, visitor, or employee who has been convicted of organized crime, crime of violence, a sexual offense, or a human or marriage trafficking, to essentially be allowed to be communicated with about related immigration enforcement. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is so important. When the Boston bombing occurred, the individual who committed that act was wounded and taken to the hospital. Immigration enforcement did go to the hospital with this individual or showed up there shortly thereafter. And so there are numerous reasons why we should make sure that hospital policies do not in any way restrict the ability for our immigration enforcement partners at the federal level to do their jobs unhindered by policies that these hospitals may have to potentially restrict communication between them and the folks that work in the hospital. We want to make sure that we are working in a collaborative way, and so this amendment seeks to make sure that in these cases we will not see any type of hindering of the investigation or the protection of the public from an individual who has potentially committed an act like this. Additionally, when these events occur, they happen in the moment. They happen quickly. So any policies around, I don't know, judicial warrants would not make sense in a situation like this. They are not getting a judicial warrant when they have collected somebody from the street, taken them to the hospital because they have shrapnel in their body. Unfortunately, they don't have time to stop on the way there to a judge. So this amendment seeks to make sure that in these very severe cases, communication between the parties is allowed to move forward without being hindered. And with that, I would move my amendment.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Not surprisingly, I'm going to ask the body to reject this amendment. And I want to start by sharing the objective of this bill, which is really quite straightforward. It's primarily to educate and inform hospital employees about how to interact with immigration officials lawfully and in a manner that best promotes public interest and the provision of essential hospital services. As many of you know, the Attorney General has encouraged non-government sensitive, and for that matter, non-sensitive locations to implement policies based on its guidance. The bill ensures that our hospitals have policies and employees, and that employees are provided training on those policies. With regard to the amendment, which speaks to criminal actions, we need to remember that immigration officials are generally not involved in criminal law enforcement, which the AG's guidance makes clear. So I'd ask the body to reject this amendment.
Delegate from Harford.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. So I actually have the AG's guidance here. In fact, if you look at the bill, it does reference a specific part of another code, and I'm going to let you know what that is here. It suggests 5 separate things that the AG's office is suggesting, but to me, the most important one is number 2. And it says verifying the identity of immigration enforcement agents and validating immigration enforcement documentation. I really don't think it needs to be said, but doctors, nurses, and those in the hospital really don't have any business asking for validation from immigration enforcement or documentation when there is a situation involving terrorism. That is not logical. That could absolutely cause serious delays in processing. And I'll remind the body that during the Boston bombing, where there was in fact multi-agency participation in this, there was another person involved. And so information was needed from the individual while in the hospital to find out what was going on. And if you Google it, you can see notes that the bomber was writing about his co-conspirator, who was his brother. So it is important that we do not create policies in our hospitals that make it almost impossible to work with the situation at the ground level in the emergent situation that they are in. So with that, I would press this amendment, Mr. Speaker.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify. I'm sorry, delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for the floor leader.
Good evening.
Good evening. How would this policy work at the VA hospital in Baltimore, a federal hospital? How does that work there?
They would have their own policy around it. And again, I really want to make sure that we're talking about, we're not talking about breaking the law situations. We're not talking about criminal situations. We're just talking, we're talking about when immigration officers come in with an administrative warrant. If there's a criminal issue going on, that's really quite different.
Gotcha. So this would not apply. That's what I'm hearing. Wouldn't apply to the VA hospital. I'm just trying to ferret out what you're saying there. So it would not apply.
I'm sure that they would be able to put something together if they wanted to.
Okay.
But,
all right.
But this doesn't necessarily apply to VA hospitals. No, it's what Maryland hospitals.
Okay. Thank you.
Delegate from Hartford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to state for the record, there's nowhere in here that delineates between, I'm looking at the reprint of the bill, there's nowhere in here that delineates between immigration enforcement actions that are specifically civil in nature or criminal in nature, and I don't believe that that is the way the draft is written. So there's just nothing in here that says if the ICE agent is there because there was a bombing, then it's totally fine. Don't worry about the warrants. But if he's just there because someone has overstayed their visa, then don't speak to them. I don't know how a hospital employee would know what to do in that situation. And also, there is a very encumbersome annual training involved in this. We're essentially going to try and teach immigration law to people that are trying to save lives every day. It's gotten a little bit out of hand, so I would press my amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Roll call is requested. Call the roll.
Ms. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If so, the clerk will. Would anyone like to change their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. 38 votes in the affirmative and 94 votes in the negative. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? The delegate from Hartford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk.
I'm sorry, one moment, please.
Yes.
Vote change. My finger went the wrong way.
Digital difficulties? Yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right, and please, you've got to tell us how you'd like to vote, delegate from Prince George's.
Vote in the red for that bill, please.
Vote in the red
for that amendment. Thank you.
For that amendment.
I can't believe I didn't get his vote.
Delegate from
I'm
Hartford
sad.
living in disappointment. Delegate from Hartford.
It feels like every day lately. Weird. Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk. It's 703220/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is even more simple and I hope you guys like it because we have done a lot of things on this policy. So this is very specific to just those who have been convicted of human or marriage trafficking specifically. Now, as you guys know, we've passed a lot of policies lately about making sure that we're training people on how to look for this. And guess what? Those policies, in many cases, actually do result in apprehensions. And there are several that have occurred, but I'll just talk about maybe one or two here, just so that you know that this is very important. There was a horrible case in Ohio that involved a woman with cognitive disabilities who was horribly, horribly abused for many, many years. Folks in the hospital recognized something was off. They reported it. Her life was saved, and the perpetrators, of which there was, I think, more than 6 people abusing her and live streaming it, were found and convicted. Another case in Missouri. We've had a case right here in Baltimore with human trafficking where folks in the hospital caught a situation that was truly appalling with human trafficking. And not only did we find one victim, but we ended up finding essentially a human trafficking ring because of this. So these policies do work. And the sad part is oftentimes in domestic situations for folks who do not have the lawful paperwork, you can see them as the victims in some of these cases. And so the perpetrators, I believe we should be able to go in and get and should not be restricted by hospital policies that prevent communication between ICE and federal law enforcement partners, especially in regards to preventing human trafficking. The Baltimore office has done a lot of work on human trafficking and sexual offenses specifically. They do a great job, and I want to make sure they can continue to do that. So that is what my amendment does, and I would press my amendment.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, probably not surprisingly, I'm going to ask the body to reject this amendment. Hospital workers don't ask about or gather data on patients' criminal records. And it's probably not the best use of their time, particularly in an emergency. And I would say that it's probably not something we want our healthcare workers to be spending their time on. So I'd ask you all to reject the amendment.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate from Hartford.
Okay. So we're going to be asking those same healthcare workers to go to an annual training on immigration enforcement law, and that is a good use of their time. But at the same time, training them on how to spot human traffickers, but not on how to make sure that they are communicating with law enforcement and federal law enforcement about human trafficking, the math doesn't math on that, Mr. Speaker. I'm very confused. It seems like we're moving in a direction as a body to make sure that we're protecting folks from human trafficking. We have a lot of hard-working ICE agents that have worked very hard to remove sexual offenders from our state. They have done a bang-up job doing so, and I think we should make sure that our hospitals are not impeding investigations into human trafficking and marriage trafficking, which goes directly against the policies that this body has been creating since I've been down here. So with that, I would press my amendment, Mr. Speaker.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The noes appear to have it, but the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their votes? Does anyone wish to change their votes? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 96 votes in the negative and 36 votes in the positive, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 99 votes in the affirmative and 33 in the negative, Senate Bill 792, having a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will call the next bill.
Senate Bill 972, Baltimore City for the 40th Alcoholic Beverages District, authorizations and revisions.
Senate Bill 972 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 132 votes in the affirmative, no votes in the negative, Senate Bill 972, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. Speaker.
That ends. Oh, wait. Vote changes, please. Delegate, the delegate from Calvert County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 508 to read.
Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 622 to read.
Delegate from Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 792 to read.
The minority whip.
497 to read. Thank you.
Any further vote changes? Now that ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements, appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will meet and vote tomorrow morning at 9:45.
Economic matters.
We will meet tomorrow morning for voting at 9:30.
Environment and transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Environment and Transportation Committee will meet for a voting session and a discussion session at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Government, labor, and elections.
We are not meeting tonight or before the floor tomorrow.
Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Health is not meeting tonight or tomorrow before floor, but please listen for subcommittee announcements.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Judiciary will be meeting at 9:15 a.m. for a vote session tomorrow.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will meet at 9:30 a.m. for a vote session.
Subcommittee announcements. Subcommittee announcements. Am I missing one? Seeing none. Delegation announcements. Delegation announcements, the Montgomery County Delegation Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Montgomery County House Delegation, I'm looking for eye contact over here. Meeting immediately after floor. Thank you.
Montgomery
In
County.
the silver room, I'm sorry.
Immediately after the floor to go to the silver room. Any other delegation announcements? Caucus announcements. Delegate from Hartford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do want to announce that there will be a pharmaceutical subcommittee meeting before the floor in the old Senate chambers tomorrow morning.
At what time?
Right before floor in the morning.
Right before floor.
Right before floor. I'm not sure what time we're coming in yet.
Floor is at 10.
Okay.
Sorry, Majority Leader.
Okay.
So floor is at 10. When do you want? 9:45?
I'm going to defer to the chair. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Pharmaceuticals Subcommittee will be meeting at 9:15 on Zoom tomorrow morning.
All right.
Mr. Speaker.
Chair of Economic Matters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Economic Matters, listen up, have a revision. We will have our voting session tomorrow after the first floor session. So not 9:30, after the first floor session.
All right. Any other caucus announcements? Caucus announcements. Seeing none. Personal or guest announcements. Oh my, the delegate from Baltimore City.
I have 4 of my interns. No, I'm joking.
Other members of the Baltimore City delegation know what to do. Get rid of that guy. All right, delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do have 2 items to mention this evening, but I'll address them together because I see them as connected. Earlier today, I was proud to join Madam Speaker upstairs in the governor's reception room for MML's annual If I Were Mayor Essay Contest awards reception, where we honored 11 exceptional 4th graders from across the state, including one from Rockville in my district, for their outstanding submissions from among about 900 entries overall. And their ideas, their precociousness, their passion were inspiring and restorative to my hope for our future. So congratulations again to these students, their proud families, and their hardworking teachers and school administrators. And thanks to MML, its staff, and its members for their commitment to this terrific program that fosters interest in state and local government. But, Mr. Speaker, as we address these 11 young Marylanders full of infinite potential and assured them that with a strong education and the support networks that they enjoy, they can truly accomplish anything, I couldn't help but turn my thoughts to a remarkable example of those possibilities that is unfolding this very moment. 4 brave humans have just traveled around the far side of the moon, going farther than anyone ever in history in an awe-inspiring feat. And the commander of the Artemis II mission, Reed Wiseman, is a native of Baltimore County, having attended Delaney High School, later receiving his master's degree from Johns Hopkins University and training at Pax River in southern Maryland. And fellow Artemis II astronaut, Christina Cook, who is the first woman to leave Earth's orbit, also spent significant time training, teaching, and living in Maryland. Cook completed the NASA Academy program at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt. She resided just down the road from here in Eastport and was active in the Severn Sailing Association. And she also taught physics at Montgomery College in my county and worked for the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab. So, we can proudly claim half of this historic mission crew as Marylanders, proving that Marylanders truly can accomplish anything. What's more, the crew decided to name their vessel Integrity, a value that our speaker constantly reminds us to model here in this chamber. After 10 days in space, Integrity is scheduled to return to Earth just after 8 p.m. tonight in about 2 hours. And I know that the entire chamber joins me in expressing gratitude and congratulations and wishing Godspeed and a safe return to our Maryland astronauts and their colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a late caucus message I just received. So the Latino caucus is still grilling out. There's plenty of meat if anybody's hungry outside of 170, 180 on the patio. Thank you.
Delegate for Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a vote change, 193324/1 amendment change to nay, please. And also just a reminder for the Sneaker Caucus to join us after the floor session for our photo outside on the steps. See you tomorrow.
Vote changes are not necessary to be part of the Sneaker Caucus. Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I made a mistake and said SB. I meant to say HB 622.
Any other personal or guest announcements? Seeing none, quorum call.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There being 128 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Saturday, April 11th at 10:00 a.m. Legislative date, March 27th.
10 o'clock tomorrow.